Hello, well, here we go for stage one, video one, of what I hope will be the last video programme for a little while. And I've been reading books about Scottish music, or music in Scotland more exactly. Recently I read a book about Sir Alexander Gibson, a very interesting biography, one about the history of the Scottish National Orchestra, and one about the Scottish Opera called It Is a Curious Story. A quotation from The Turn of the Screw, as it happens. And it's the third one, mainly, which I'm going to focus on, because this is going to be the story of the early years of Scottish opera, how it started, how it grew. Along with the story, we have musical extracts from those early years from 4 operas: Don Giovanni, Un ballo in maschera, that is Verdi, A Masked Ball, The Merry Widow, Franz Lehar, and Der Rosenkavalier by Richard Strauss. The story very much starts with one man, Alexander Gibson. At the age of 33, in 1959, he was appointed principal conductor of the Scottish National Orchestra. He was the youngest man and the first Scot to hold that post. Up till then, his career had been largely in England. As a student at the Royal College, he organised an orchestra to underpin the productions of the opera school. He studied conducting abroad with Igor Markovich and Paul van Kempen. In the mid to late 50s, he was in London, where he worked as a repetiteur with Sadler's Wells in 1950 to 51. Where he had worked as a repetiteur, I should have said. Now, a repetiteur is an absolutely essential person when an opera is being prepared. He or she is a pianist, and a very, very good one, and will play the orchestral score for the singers, the principals and the chorus as they learn the music and are guided through that by the conductor. And not only is the repetiteur important, the repetiteur also learns a great deal very quickly from that experience, and that was something that Gibson did in those days. Eventually he had the opportunity to conduct at Sadler's Wells Madame Butterfly, Tosca, Eugene Onegin, The Bartered Bride, Wolf Ferrari's School for Fathers, and Beezy's Pearl Fishers. He was one of the staff conductors there, not the principal conductor, but nonetheless he got to do certain things. Other London engagements followed, and in 1957 he was appointed as musical director at Covent Garden. He was then 31, and again the youngest ever to hold that post. In other words, his recent experience when he came back to Scotland in 59 was largely in the orchestra pit of the Opera House and at rehearsals for opera. Many years later, Gibson wrote, "From the moment I left Sadler's Wells, I felt that if I had a mission in life, it should be to further the cause of opera in my sphere of activities." So it was no surprise then that, having established himself quickly with the SNO as an effective conductor of standard repertoire and many adventurous new works, for example, all the Symphony of Sibelius in his first season, not that these were new, but they were fairly new to Scotland, he revitalised an orchestra which had fallen on relatively hard times under their 2 previous Viennese conductors, Karl Rankel and Hans Swarovski, and he set his sights on providing opera for Scotland. Conveniently, the orchestra did little in late spring and early summer, so they would be available then, theoretically anyway, for opera, and that would bring in more income for the players. He maintained links with London colleagues at the Wells, seeking their views on how to go about this and whether they would be interested in being involved. He gathered round him, and this was very important, expert helpers to advise on the business side of such a venture, how to make it happen. Accountants, solicitors, people like that, mostly quite young, mostly very keen opera buffs, who shared Gibson's vision of a new opera company. It's important to mention some of these people because with Gibson they made it happen. One was Richard Telfer, an Edinburgh music teacher with inventive ideas about repertoire. Then there was Ainsley Miller, a chartered surveyor who was on the board of Sadler's Wells. And there was Ian Roger, a Glasgow solicitor, all of whom worked hard and productively from the start. Gibson liaised with the Scotsman newspaper and Scottish television, who I may say were very helpful, both of which were supportive. And eventually a plan was formed in 1961 to present 3 operas, just 3, Donizetti's Don Pasquale and a double bill of Bartók's Bluebeard's Castle and Stravinsky's The Soldier's Tale, both of which are quite short. Could this be made to work? And could it lead eventually to greater things and even to the forming of a permanent company? With these three operas, they would test the waters, or at least that was the plan. Well, we know that in the end it did work, but I'm going to break off now so that we can hear the first of our examples of Scottish opera as it eventually became. There are no surviving recordings of these very early years, but in the 1970s, EMI released LPs of extracts from 4 operas, the ones I mentioned earlier, Don Giovanni, Der Rosenkavalier, The Merry Widow, and Un ballo in maschera. And here to end this video, which is perhaps rather a short one, we have some extracts from Act 2 of Don Giovanni. We're going to hear the sextet, which is preceded by Sola Sola in Mio Loco, and the finale from Act 2, A dove è il perfido. Now, from the start, Scottish opera went for the best singers it could possibly afford. So we have here a wonderful cast. John Shirley Quirk as the Don, Sheila Armstrong, Donna Elvira, Robert Tier as Don Ottavio, Rachel Mattes, Donna Anna, Stafford Dean Leporello, Arthur Jackson Mazzetto, and Anne-Marie Zerlina. And so here we go with Don Giovanni. Don Giovanni. Well, in our second video we'll take the story a little bit further, and we'll also, as I said, the Scottish Opera always went for the best singer it could possibly get, and we'll also feature one very remarkable singer who had, you may think, an extraordinary background. But that's in the second video.